The auction block. The trading station of Velcora hung in the darkness between stars, a massive wheel of metal and greed where the galaxy's most ruthless merchants gathered. Here, in the outer rim where Galactic Council authority meant nothing, anything could be bought or sold. Anything. Commander Zektar of the Vraxian Empire stood before the auction block, his 4 eyes gleaming with satisfaction. Today's merchandise was particularly valuable, a young Quillari child, barely 8 cycles old by her species measure. The Quillari were rare, their telepathic abilities making them perfect for neural interface work in the deep mining colonies. This one would fetch at least 200,000 credits. The child trembled on the platform, her silver skin marked with restraint burns, her large violet eyes streaming tears that she couldn't wipe away with her bound hands. She made small, broken sounds that might have been crying, might have been calling for parents who were already dead. Lot 247, Zektar announced, his translator rendering his clicks and hisses into galactic standard. Quillari female, undamaged neural pathways, fully trainable. Bidding starts at 150,000 credits. The crowd of buyers pressed closer, various species united in their hunger for profit. Insectoid Kreshna clicked mandibles excitedly. Serpentine Saelith coiled tighter, their hood displays showing financial calculations. Even other Vraxians competed, always eager to undercut their rivals. 175,000, called a mining consortium representative. 190,000, countered a neural programming facility owner. The child's crying grew louder, more desperate. Zektar shocked her casually with his prod, just enough to quiet her. The crowd barely noticed. This was business. 200,000, someone shouted. 210,000. Then a voice cut through the auction hall, speaking in heavily accented but clear galactic standard. A human voice. That's enough. The stranger without weapons. The crowd parted, and Zektar's eyes tracked the newcomer with predatory focus. A human. Tall by human standards, perhaps 1.9 meters, with dark skin marked by old scars and eyes the color of Earth's ancient oceans. She wore simple cargo pants and a worn jacket, no uniform, no military insignia. Most importantly, no visible weapons. Humans were rare in this sector. Most stayed in council space where laws meant something, where their peculiar sense of morality could be protected. This one was either very brave or very stupid. This is a closed auction, Zektar said, his mandibles clicking with amusement. Licensed buyers only. You should leave before you get hurt, human. The woman didn't leave. She walked closer to the platform, her boots echoing in the sudden quiet. When she looked up at the Quillari child, something passed between them. Recognition, perhaps. Or simply one frightened being seeing another who still had the capacity for rage. I said that's enough, the woman repeated. Her voice was soft, almost gentle, but something in it made Zektar's secondary heart skip a beat. Let the child go. The auction hall erupted in laughter. A lone human, unarmed, demanding that the Vraxian Empire's most successful slaver release valuable merchandise? It was absurd. It was hilarious. Zektar laughed hardest of all. You amuse me, human. Perhaps I should put you on the block as well. Humans fetch good prices in the entertainment districts, especially the females. You would. He never finished the sentence. The sound of bones breaking. What happened next would be analyzed later on security footage, studied by military tacticians across 3 sectors, and become the stuff of legend in the darker corners of the galaxy. But in the moment, it simply happened too fast for anyone to stop. The human moved. She covered the distance between floor and platform in a single leap that defied her species' supposed physical limitations. Her hand struck Zektar's throat with surgical precision, crushing his primary vocal cords before he could call for backup. Her other hand caught his shock prod mid-swing, yanked it from his grip, and drove it into the gap between his carapace plates. Zektar, who had survived 3 colonial wars and countless slave rebellions, who weighed nearly 300 kilograms of armored muscle, dropped like a stone. The crowd surged forward. Guards reached for weapons. The human didn't care. She moved through them like a force of nature, like something ancient and terrible that humans kept buried until there was no other choice. A Krishna guard raised a plasma rifle. She broke his 3 primary arms before he could fire, took his weapon, and used it as a club against the SALF enforcer lunging from her left. No shots fired. No kills, not yet. But everyone who approached her left the encounter unconscious, broken, or wishing they had never been born. Within 90 seconds, 12 guards lay on the ground. The auction hall emptied as buyers scrambled for exits. Only the human remained standing, breathing hard, bleeding from a cut above her eye, holding the Quillari child against her chest with one arm while the other held the plasma rifle. "It's okay," the human whispered to the child in heavily accented Quillari. "It's okay now. You're safe." The child buried her face in the human's shoulder and sobbed. The voice from the shadows. Impressive. The voice came from the auction hall's upper balcony, where the serious buyers watched from behind shielded glass. A figure stepped forward, revealing himself in the dim light. Aristocrat class Braxian, his carapace marked with noble house colors, his mandibles decorated with precious metals. "I am Lord Krextal," the aristocrat continued. "And you've just destroyed a significant portion of my property and injured my employees. The child alone represents a 250,000 credit loss." The human adjusted her grip on the rifle, still cradling the child. "Then consider it a lesson in choosing better business ventures." Bold words from someone who is about to die. Krextal gestured, and dozens of weapon barrels appeared from hidden positions around the hall. Snipers, automated turrets, enough firepower to level a small building. "Put down the weapon and the merchandise. You've made your point. Die with some dignity." The human looked at the child in her arms, then back at Krextal. When she spoke, her voice carried across the empty hall with absolute certainty. "No. No?" Krextal's mandibles clicked with genuine confusion. "You're surrounded. You're outgunned 100 to 1. You cannot win this. Why throw away your life for one alien child you don't even know?" The human smiled, and it was not a kind expression. "Because that's what humans do. We don't walk away. We don't leave the helpless behind. And we don't let monsters like you operate in the dark without consequences." She set the child down gently behind a support pillar, never taking her eyes off Krextal. "Stay here, little one. Cover your ears. This is going to get loud." "Last chance, human," Krextal said. "Surrender or die." The human checked the plasma rifle's charge, rolled her shoulders like a fighter preparing for a bout, and spoke words that would echo across the trading station's corridors for years to come. "I'm Sergeant Maya Torres, formerly of Earth's Colonial Marines. I've survived the Terran Crix War, the siege of New Mombasa, and 3 years in a Zelkan prison camp. You think this scares me?" She raised the rifle. "Come on then. Let's see what you've got." The station's lights flickered as weapons powered up. The Quillari child pressed herself into the shadows, watching through tears as the human who had saved her prepared to face impossible odds. And in that moment, every being in that auction hall learned something that the Galactic Council had been trying to warn them about for decades. Humans can be reasoned with. Humans can be bargained with. Humans can even be frightened. But if you threaten a child in front of a human, if you cross that particular line in the sand, you don't face a rational being anymore. You face something that the human species buried deep in their evolution, something they carry from their predator ancestors, something that wakes up when innocence is threatened. You face the monster that made humans the apex predators of Earth. And no amount of armor, weapons, or numbers will save you from what comes next. The lesson they'll never forget. The mathematics of rage. The first shot came from automated turret 7, positioned in the northeast corner of the auction hall. Maya Torres didn't dodge it. She predicted it. Humans have a peculiar gift that other species often underestimate, pattern recognition refined by millions of years of hunting and being hunted. Maya's brain processed the turret's position, power signature, and targeting algorithm in the half-second before it fired. She was already moving, using a support beam as cover while her hands worked the plasma rifle. The return shot destroyed Turret 7's sensor array. Pattern Delta. Lord Krextal commanded from his shielded balcony. Crossfire position. 12 snipers adjusted their aim. But humans have another gift, they're persistence hunters. They don't give up. They don't tire as quickly as other species. And when properly motivated, they can turn their entire body into a weapon fueled by a very particular kind of math. The math of righteous anger. Maya moved like water, like smoke, like something that shouldn't be possible for a species that evolved under heavy gravity and limited resources. She rolled behind the auction block, came up firing, took out 3 sniper positions before they could adjust. A Vraxian enforcer charged from her left. She didn't shoot him. She let him get close, used his momentum against him, sent him crashing into the automated turret behind her. 2 threats eliminated with 1 motion. How? Krextal's voice carried disbelief now. She's one being. One unarmed human. Unarmed doesn't mean helpless, you bastard, Maya growled, though he couldn't hear her. She grabbed a fallen guard's shock net, improvised a sling, and launched it at the balcony shields. The electromagnetic pulse disrupted them for exactly 4 seconds. She put 2 plasma shots through the gap. Not killing shots. Warning shots. Close enough that Krextal felt the heat. The Quillari child watched from her hiding spot, her telepathic senses picking up something that terrified and awed her in equal measure. The human's mind wasn't chaotic or random. It was focused, clear, running calculations and scenarios faster than computers. But underneath that tactical brilliance burned something else, a promise made to every endangered child in the galaxy, spoken in a language older than words. I will not let them hurt you. Whatever it costs. The weakness they didn't know they had. Maya's military instructors had taught her something that most species never learned: every enemy has a weakness, but sometimes that weakness isn't physical. Sometimes it's psychological. The Vraxians were apex predators on their homeworld. They hunted in coordinated packs, relying on overwhelming force and numerical superiority. Their entire combat doctrine assumed that sufficient firepower would solve any problem. They'd never developed guerrilla tactics because they'd never needed them. Humans had spent their entire evolutionary history being both predator and prey, developing adaptations for both roles. Maya had learned those lessons in the colonial marines, refined them in a Zelkan prison camp where the guards thought starving prisoners would make them compliant. Instead, it made Maya patient. She waited until the snipers adjusted positions, until the guards clustered together for a coordinated assault, until they committed to a strategy. Then she activated the auction platform's emergency systems, the ones designed to contain violent merchandise during transport. Energy barriers erupted throughout the hall, dividing the space into isolated sections. Snipers couldn't support each other. Guards couldn't coordinate. Automated systems locked down, their targeting algorithms confused by friendly fire protocols. And Maya moved through the chaos like a ghost, systematically disabling each isolated threat. Impossible, Krextal whispered, watching his overwhelming advantage evaporate. She's manipulating our own systems against us. Not impossible, said a new voice from the hall's entrance. Just human. Reinforcements arrive. Captain Zhao of the Earth Freighter Persistence strode into the auction hall, followed by his crew. 8 humans, all carrying legal salvage equipment that happened to include cutting torches, hull breach sealant guns, and mining charges. Not weapons, technically. But in the right hands, human hands, anything becomes a weapon. Sorry we're late, Maya, Zhao called out. Had to convince station security that this was a legitimate salvage operation. Took some creative paperwork. Maya emerged from cover, still holding the rifle, her jacket torn and blood-stained but her eyes bright with victory. How'd you find me? You sent a distress ping before storming the auction. Zhao gestured at the unconscious guards, the disabled systems, the general destruction. Though it looks like you had things under control. Not control, Maya corrected, moving back toward the Quillari child. Just survival. Lord Crexdale's voice boomed through the station's speakers, desperate now. This is illegal. The Galactic Council. The Galactic Council, Zhao interrupted loudly, just received a full data dump of your operation. Every transaction, every victim, every legal violation. Transmitted by my ship 30 seconds ago. I'd estimate you have about 10 minutes before Council enforcers arrive. The audio feed went silent. You might want to run, Zhao added helpfully. Just a suggestion. The sound of scrambling footsteps echoed through the station as Crexdale's remaining forces abandoned their positions. Within minutes, the auction hall stood empty except for Maya, the Earth crew, and one traumatized Quillari child. The message they'll remember. Maya knelt beside the child, gently removing the restraints from her small wrists. The burns would heal. The psychological scars would take longer. But the child was alive, and that was what mattered. You're safe now, Maya said softly in Quillari. We're taking you home. The child looked up at her savior with wide violet eyes. Why? She asked in halting standard. Why fight for me? I'm not your kind. Maya smiled, and this time it was genuine, warm, carrying all the compassion that had been hidden beneath the warrior's rage. Because that's what family does. And every child in this galaxy is family to humans. We don't leave family behind. Captain Zhao approached, holding a medical kit. Station security found the Quillari embassy contacts. They're sending a ship for her. Should be here in 6 hours. We'll stay until they arrive, Maya said, standing carefully. Her ribs hurt. Probably cracked. Worth it. Station master wants to press charges, one of Zhao's crew reported. Says you destroyed property, disrupted business. Let him press charges, Maya interrupted. Let him explain to the council why he's defending a slave market. I'll wait. She wouldn't have to wait long. By the time council enforcers arrived, they'd find extensive evidence of illegal operations, testimony from freed captives, and security footage showing exactly what happened when slavers threatened a child in front of a human. The footage would spread across the galaxy within days. Pilots would tell the story in every port. Merchants would whisper it in trading stations. Parents of every species would point to the stars and tell their children about the human who stood alone against impossible odds. And the predators who operated in the dark, who bought and sold innocents, who thought themselves untouchable, would learn a lesson that Earth had tried to teach peacefully for decades. Humans are adaptable. Humans are diplomatic. Humans are reasonable. But humans are also protective. Fiercely, irrationally, dangerously protective of those who cannot protect themselves. Cross that line, threaten a child, harm the helpless, and you don't face human reason. You face human wrath. 6 months later. The Quillari homeworld welcomed Maya Torres as a hero. The child she'd saved, now named Sarah in Maya's honor, had recovered fully. Her parents had insisted on meeting the human who'd risked everything. We have no words in our language, Sarah's mother said through a translator, her telepathic presence radiating gratitude, to properly thank you. Maya knelt down, eye level with Sarah, and smiled. You don't need words. Just take care of her. Let her grow up free. That's all the thanks I need. As Maya left the Quillari embassy compound, Captain Zhao waited with the shuttle. You know you're famous now, right? The human who stopped the auction is trending across 17 sectors. Maya shrugged. Fame fades. That child gets to live. That's what matters. The council wants to recruit you. Special Operations, Anti-Trafficking Division. I'll think about it. Maya looked up at the alien stars, so different from Earth's sky but beautiful nonetheless. But first, I heard there's a trafficking ring operating near the Krell Nebula. Thought we might check it out. Zhao grinned. You can't save them all, Maya. Watch me. As the shuttle lifted off, carrying one human who'd decided that compassion was worth fighting for, the galaxy watched and learned. Humans weren't the strongest species. They weren't the smartest, the fastest, or the most technologically advanced. But they were something else. Something that made them dangerous in ways that went beyond weapons and warfare. They were stubborn. They cared, even when caring was difficult, even when caring was dangerous, even when caring meant standing alone against the dark. And in a galaxy that had forgotten how to care, that had turned suffering into profit and exploitation into policy, humans brought something revolutionary. The simple, radical idea that every life mattered. That no one deserved to be merchandise. That children, regardless of species, deserved protection. The Vraxian slave markets never recovered from what became known as the Velcora incident. Other trafficking operations went underground, afraid of attracting human attention. And whenever predators gathered in the dark corners of the galaxy, they told a new story to their young. Beware the humans. They have no weapons, no armor, no natural advantages. But they have something worse. They have mercy. And when you threaten what they've decided to protect, when you cross that line in the sand, mercy transforms into something that even the galaxy's worst nightmares learn to fear. Because humans don't just fight for themselves. They fight for those who can't fight back. And they never, ever stop.